a very warm welcome to episode 330 of the Total Saints podcast, your home for all things Southampton Football Club. Before we start, a huge thank you to our TSP Patreon community, because we couldn't make the show each week without your loyal support. And we've had over 20 people sign up for paid subscriptions this week. So here comes the roll of honour in our TSP supporter tier. Our thanks to Adam, James Hope, Yao Wei Bracey, Kate Dewgrew, Sam Adams, Andy Kershaw, Twig, Andrew Riddit, Andy Dodd, Hinari, Nigel, Craig Smith, James Hayter, Steve, Lushy, Ian Fogarty, Tom, Ian Tompkins, and you. In the Bobby Stokes tier, we've got Ian Beryl and Kev Stokes. Simon Richards is in our James Beattie tier, and Andy has joined our Mick Shannon tier. So thank you to everybody who has signed up. We're still running our 25% off offer for your first month or year through Patreon. We've had over 150 people join the community since the start of the season, and that offer expires at 8 o'clock this evening. So we'll have a bit more on that coming up later. Now, on the podcast tonight, Saints head into the international break with a point on the road at Watford. More small mistakes costing us points, so we'll review that game. Plus, we'll look back at the cup win over Norwich. It's been a busy week and evening, in fact, for the transfer window, which draws to a close very soon. We're going to chat through the ins, the outs, and some of the maybes as well. And our next game, well, it's the one we've all been looking forward to, the first South Coast derby in the league since 2012. The wait is almost over. Part one of our preview is coming up later on. Now, my name is Martin Stark. If you're watching on YouTube, the faces you can see joining me tonight: Steve Grant is the owner of Saints Web, Glenn Delacour is writer of the blog League 1-10, and Alfie House is senior Southampton reporter at the Daily Echo. Plenty to discuss this week. Watford away is where we start. The game that will be remembered for two fantastic free kicks, but ultimately another frustrating afternoon. 2-2, the final score at Vicarage Road. Frustrating, Glenn, because you kind of felt like we did enough to win the game. We could have got a bit more out of that.
I would disagree with that, to be honest. I don't think we did do enough to win it. We in the first half, we looked the only decent team on the pitch, I thought, and we were going forward, and we were getting to about sort of 30 yards from the goal, and then not a lot was happening. We got the early-ish goal, 10 minutes, wasn't it? But for me, we didn't quite do enough in that first half. That would have been the time to, in an ideal world, to go and get a second goal, and that probably would have been the end of it. I thought Watford were pretty limited, all told, but they sort of got by with sort of athleticism and enthusiasm, and we really struggled with it in the second half. No doubt, not helped by the Flynn Downs deciding to cook for himself again, or whatever it was.
We need to talk about that, don't we?
Yeah. So him missing there was no disruptor in midfield. Shea Charles couldn't do it all on its own. So I do kind of question the decision to start Joe Robinson as a replacement and shuffle things around. I think maybe in hindsight, it would have been. I mean, Ronnie Edwards played in midfield for QPR last season, for example. Maybe that would have been better and not disrupted things too much. But that's a player out of position, obviously. So maybe not. And obviously Moses Sissé probably hadn't travelled, I imagine, which is because he would naturally be the, at that point. I know we've signed players now, but at that point he probably would have been thrown in to start the game, I would imagine. And obviously Mr. Fernandes had left. So so ironically we could have done with him yesterday, but there you go. But yeah, anyway, first half we were the better side, and it was all right. Watford, to be fair to them, they made 3 subs on about the 60-minute mark, I think it was, and that kind of changed the energy, and we kind of struggled to deal with it. The first goal we conceded, I think it's poor. I think there's 2 mistakes there, one by Ryan Manning, and I don't think Gavin Bazunu covered himself in glory on that goal. And yeah, the 2 free kicks at the end, it looked like we got out of jail when we got the free kick, which was, that free kick was a direct result of our substitutions. Adam Armstrong came on and got hauled down on the edge of the box. We suddenly sort of picked it up a little bit with those substitutions. got back in front, and then the build up to their free kick, it's questionable because I don't think it was even a foul by Shay Charles. I thought he'd won the ball, but he wanted to book Matsuki for the previous foul, which was 20 yards further up the pitch, and the referee just seemed to, I'm going to stop the game and book that guy, but I'll give the free kick, on the edge of the box. And of course, it's a brilliant free kick, and I think I got a quick look at Gavin Bazunu for the first goal, but anyone who thinks he can possibly pick that one out of the top corner is arbitrary, because honestly, that is just a perfect free kick. You can't save that no matter what. So, ultimately,
two in a week for him as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
because he got one last week at Swansea.
So ultimately, 2-2 is a disappointing result, but it's not the end of the world. And with the players we've got coming in, and the way the team will hopefully develop over these next sort of few months, not the end of the world, but it's frustrating nonetheless, because I feel that we should have put it to bed in the first half, but we didn't.
Good to see Cam Archer on the score sheet against Leeds. Have you got into the ground in time for that goal or not? Were you still queuing outside? Because it was a bit carnage, wasn't it?
Oh, absolute shit show, that place. Seriously.
Is it always like that?
Yes. Watford is notoriously bad. The concourse is tiny, and they don't serve alcohol. And you know in advance that there's no beer available in that away end. So everybody, if you're in the pub, everybody's always staying in the pub for one more beer. Right. And then it's a little bit of a late push. I mean, I was in that queue at 22, and we were already kind of back at where the club shop is on the corner of the ground. And I got to my seat. I think we were about 3 or 4 minutes in. It wasn't an organisational masterclass, that's for sure. But apparently, it's notorious for being like that. Especially like the last couple of seasons. Apparently, they're whoever it is that's running their security and entry stuff. Because there were like 2 ticket checks, and I mean, depending on whereabouts your kind of queue got shunted, there were either 2, maybe even 3 search points, and then you get to the turnstiles, and there's literally nobody at the turnstiles. So everybody's trying to scan these QR codes on the readers, and some of them are working, some of them aren't, and the ones that aren't is holding everybody up, and it's just an absolute mess. But Watford won't give a shit, will they? I mean, they don't care. These people are only turning up to Vicarage Road once a season.
They got your money.
They got your money, and they grab that and move on. So I mean that was annoying, but having got in there, I was comfortably in my seat for the Archer goal. That was good reactions from him. I mean it's one of those things you would expect your number 9 to be exactly in that position, but how many times have we seen this over a number of years where the ball falls in the 6-yard box from a set piece, and we don't have anybody reacting to it? And he was so quick to get on the end of that, and I mean, he absolutely whacked it, didn't he, from about 3 yards out?
Yeah, it was a terrible header, though.
Great assist by Nathan Wood's nose.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I'll give a little bit of a free pass to Nathan Wood's nose on the basis of the amount of abuse it's taken in the last week and a half from Stoke and Norwich, and from Ronnie Edwards as well at Norwich on Tuesday. But I mean, it wasn't a great header. He had a free header from about sort of 8 or 9 yards out where he made contact with it, and really he probably should have scored himself. But the fact that it fell kindly for Archer reacting quickly was nice little bonus. And I mean, you kind of hope now he's got a couple of goals, you can see that he's looking a little bit sharper. Obviously, stuff was said about him, and stuff was probably said to him, I imagine, by Will Still at various points over the pre-season, because he looked sharp at the beginning of pre-season, and then kind of went off the boil a little bit towards the start of the regular season. So there was a little bit of a question mark over whether he was doing all the things he should be to try and force his way into the side. And I mean, credit where it's due. He's obviously taken that on board and done exactly what he needed to.
And what was the quote after the Norwich game? Was it like read the room or something, wasn't it? Will still essentially saying to him, look, there isn't a striker that's scoring goals. Yeah. So the shirt's there if you want to take it. The
shirt's there for whoever wants to grab it. And the only way you grab that is with performances on the pitch. And at Norwich he was excellent on Tuesday, and same again today. I mean, frankly, I'm not sure I would have taken him off. But in fairness, Armstrong coming on as a kind of almost direct replacement actually did quite well. His running, the runs that he was making were very similar to the ones that Archer was doing. One is the free kick that Manning scored from, so it worked out okay. But it's one of those, I kind of think when your centre forward is in that little vein of form and he's looking as sharp as he is, maybe just leave him there. I mean, we haven't got a game for 2 weeks now. So it wasn't like he was tired and needed the rest.
I think he stopped running a little bit in the second half. I don't know whether he got tired or what, but I thought his second half performance was it was back to the.
I think that was in line with the rest of the team. I think because the ball didn't get into the areas where he was useful in the first half. Whereas I think that, as you said just now, those 3 subs that Watford made on the hour basically just wrestled back the midfield from us, and all of a sudden we didn't have the space. So in the first half, Azaz, Robinson, even Fraser in his sort of slightly unusual position for him, and Charles were all getting so much room in the centre of midfield. Like as soon as we played one pass through the line, then they had 20 yards of space to take a touch, turn, and run. Which they obviously shut down in the second half. But second half wasn't anywhere near as impressive. But even so, we probably should have been able to comfortably hold on to it. But for I've not seen I want to see the first goal back a little bit in terms of whether there was a foul. I mean, certainly from where we were stood. I mean, that away end, you're about 100 yards away from the incident, but the way Manning went down, it did look like he got a shove. Whether it was just one of those ones where it's a little bit of a soft nudge and he's tried to make the most of it, hoping that the ref gives it. But then, I mean, in fairness, the player's got an awful lot to do from the angle he's at. It's a great finish, unfortunately. But neither keeper has actually made a save in that second half, I don't think. But that's 3 goals, isn't it? Just the way it goes. I mean, great finishing for all 3 of them. I mean, I'll slightly disagree with Glenn. I don't think that first one's on Bazunu really. The force he's hit it, and the fact that it's gone like about 2 inches inside the far post, it's kind of perfectly placed, I think, really. But frustrating one in the end because I think once the season's up, I think you probably find Watford will be in the bottom half of the table. So that's one that we probably should have got to grips with. But we've done this a lot at Vicarage Road, haven't we? I mean, I know we're now 10 games unbeaten there, but a lot of those have been draws. I think it's like 7-8 draws, maybe. And a lot of those have been where we've had the lead and given it away late in the game. So that's not a trait that's unique to this group of players. It's something that we've been doing for quite some time, I'd say.
It's one of those ones, isn't it? The result in the context of the end of the season, it might not be so bad. Alfie, obviously a late change in midfield, as we kind of touched on. Flynn Downs having to be withdrawn because of illness. It's not the first time that's happened, though, is it? I kind of think, do they need a new chef? Is it about encouraging them to use hand sanitizer, wash your hands after you've been to the toilet? What's going on? Because that's like the second time now, isn't it? We've had players that have pulled out due to illness before kickoff.
Yeah, obviously we've had Ross Stewart and Damien Downs already this season miss games with illness. I think for Flynn Downs, this is the second or third time since that initial bout of illness he had when he first signed a couple of years ago. I wonder, he did have E. coli at the time, which is obviously quite a bad illness to have, and I do wonder if that has left a lasting impact on him, and he's just maybe a little bit weaker in that area. And obviously you can't play in those conditions. Obviously, it's a massive risk that you're trying to take, and you'd be weak, wouldn't you? Let's be honest. They did miss him, and I think Glenn's already sort of touched on the tactical side of it. But I mean, that miss has come a good time in terms of perception of him, because there's a lot of talk about just flog him to Ipswich or take him out of the team and things like this. And we know he's a top Championship player. All right, he's not had the the start that he's had in the previous seasons, particularly poor at Ipswich, but he's still an important piece of this team. And obviously the game came a day or two too early for the new signing Kasper Yander as well, who we're sort of looking at and earmarking as a 6 and an 8 and a replacement for either Shea Charles or Flynn Downs in the team when needed. So it did leave Will Steele a little bit sort of bereft of options. And actually, you look at the subs he's made, and Steve points out the double change for Watford on the 56th minute, where the momentum then just completely changes, and still doesn't do anything until the 75th minute where he makes that triple change. But by the end of the game, for me, he's not got the options he needs, because he's got Ronnie Edwards playing at right wing back, he's got Ross Stewart playing on the left wing, he's got Damien Downs up front, who bless him, has done nothing so far in his early days, but he's done absolutely nothing.
Doesn't touch the ball, does he?
No, he doesn't touch the ball. No. Even when he's got an open goal, he doesn't touch the ball. That's the problem.
No.
But look, it's early days for him. I'm not going to write him off. But he's bringing players on who, like say, Ronnie Edwards completely wrong position, Ross Stewart just not in the right place. And I know that's the end of the game, but it did make me think, he's missing a lot there. And I sort of asked him about that after the game, and obviously they've made the signings to address that with Tom Fellows coming in as well. They'll have more with Elias Jellert just being confirmed 10 minutes ago as well. But yeah, I did look around, I did look at the bench, and obviously the quality's there, the wages are there compared to the Watford team. But I did just think you've not got the options that you need right now. You'll be bringing on players that you don't really want to be bringing on. The only other one is obviously Matsuki, and it's whether Matsuki could do a game from the start, because he could probably have started the game ahead of maybe Jay Robinson or whoever, a more natural midfielder, because the starting shape was really interesting. It's completely different. We've not seen it before. But it was like a 5-4-1 diamond, right? It sort of looked like to me. So obviously you had your back five and the two wing backs. Then you had obviously Shea Charles, who, by the way, was brilliant, I thought, for a lot of the game. I thought that he sort of broke up a lot of play against the transitions. I thought he was really good. And then you had Ryan Fraser and Jay Robinson either side of him, almost acting as sort of central midfielders, which we know Ryan Fraser can do, but is completely alien to Jay Robinson, who I thought tried, and I thought he didn't do badly, but it's just unnatural. And then Finn Azaz, I was really impressed with as well on his first start, having barely trained, maybe one day at most. I like the energy he provided. I think he looks like a presence. He got stuck in for me. Like I've heard a lot about him being like lazy on the pitch, but I didn't quite see that, certainly at the start of the game yesterday. And I thought they sort of played off Cameron Archer quite well. But yeah, I mean, going back to Cameron Archer, I'm rambling a bit now, but going back to Cameron Archer, we did ask Will still about those comments about, read the room and all that sort of stuff. And I think he's just as explicit as he's coming back too much. He's got all the best thing about him, he's got all the raw attributes. He can run and he can finish. But I think he's just overthinking his game a little bit too much at times. And, he'd have a man, he'd size them up, he'd go, and then he'd come back and play the ball backwards. Or, and I think it's just, for Will Steele, it's about just use what you've got. Just run, keep running, whether it's with the ball or without the ball, just keep going behind the final line. And there was a couple of times in that first half. There was one in particular where I don't know who had the ball, but it was out on the right-hand side of the pitch. And Cameron could have made a brilliant run in behind. And it would have been one simple pass. He'd have been in behind and one-on-one again. But he just sort of stood behind the centre-half, and the ball eventually got played, and he didn't have the legs to get there. So I think that's the sort of thing that Will Steele was referring to, just to keep going and to keep running, keep making the runs, knowing that you're probably not going to get it all the time, but when you do, you'll be there. But yeah, I mean, Cameron for me is the number one choice up front at the moment, because there's nobody else who are quite simply doing the business.
Yeah, really good. A couple of other players making full debuts as well, Glenn. Obviously, Azaz coming in. I think he only arrived on Friday, didn't he? And then straight into the team. But encouraging signs?
Yeah, I mean, I think with Azaz, people are going to have to remember what we've bought him to do. We've bought him because he's a creative player, because he can pass the ball. I mean, he put one lovely ball through to Archer. He was marginally offside. Yeah, it looked to me like he was marginally offside, but that was, that's basically what he can do, because we would have messed that pass up. Anyone else would have messed that up, and it wouldn't have gone anywhere near him. So, but you have to remember, we're creative players, is that they are going to give the ball away occasionally. That's the nature of the beast. Matt Letizia gave the ball away loads, and that's the thing, because they're trying to do things, they're trying to make things happen, and that's what Azaz has been brought in to do. He's hopefully going to provide that missing link between our midfield and our attack, which we've seen all the pre-season games and all the games so far. We haven't really sort of clicked in that area of the pitch, so he's come in to do that. He's we're obviously going to go to a sort of 4-2-3-1 formation, and he's going to be the one, in the middle behind the striker sort of thing. So I think, from that point of view, it was encouraging. He got caught on the ball a couple of times in the second half where, just looked a little bit leggy. It probably comes from, all the travelling or whatever he's been doing the last few days up and back to Middlesbrough or whatever. So, I think there were encouraging signs there, but yeah, we have to remember what he's been brought in to do and concentrate on the things that he's good at, and not worry so much about the things that he's maybe not so good at, because it's all about the team at the end of the day and how he fits into it. And hopefully he'll, if he does what we've brought him in to do with sort of goals and assists and stuff like that, then that's going to be good for everybody and good for the team as a whole. But just let the boy play and see how he gets on. I was encouraged by what he did.
Good start. Heading into the international break, Steve, how do you sum up the first 4 games then? It was a case of kind of like getting through, really, wasn't it? A lot of rebuilding. And as you said, it wasn't all going to be fixed overnight. Yeah,
I mean, it's not been perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But I think someone worked out that if you compare the like-for-like results from 2 seasons ago, we're actually a point up.
Oh, I like that. I hadn't seen
which I mean, if you take these games in isolation, you probably think that's a little bit disappointing that we've only got 5 points from them. But yeah, okay, fine. But then you're now relying on kind of going with the same sort of record as we had. I mean, bear in mind we got 87 points last time. That means we've still got another 82 to get.
Seems a long way off at the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sorry to say, but I'm not sure what statistician gave you that, because they won 3 of the first 4 in 2023.
No, I'm not talking about the first 4 games.
Same opposition.
The corresponding
okay, so I can
games.
understand. Yeah, got you.
So yeah, I mean, these sort of things are useless anyway, aren't they? Really, but I think that 5 points from 4 games is not great, bluntly, but we've shown bits in every game that we've got quality in this division. We know that up against the best teams in the division, we can go toe to toe with them. Ipswich, we were comfortable for the vast majority of that game. They don't look any great shakes themselves.
No.
Leicester obviously got a good win on Friday night, but I mean they basically created 2 chances and scored them both. And Birmingham weren't very good either, having started the season really well. So it's been a strange start when you've got a side like Middlesbrough who have been tipped to be a little bit ropey this season, and Stoke, West Brom, who are in the top 3, and it's like, okay, this is a bit weird. But I think with all the transfer business that's been done, which we'll obviously come on to, but I think as a whole over the entire division, I think once we get the other side of the international break, that's when the real stuff starts. I think because teams know what they've got, they know that their squad is fixed up until January the 1st. So you've got 20 odd games now between now and then to kind of show what you're all about. And for us, that means we've got to be kind of starting to win games on the regular, and probably start to win games comfortably. I think would be the expectation in a lot of these cases. I think if you played yesterday's game in 2 months' time, when all these new players have settled in, maybe the 11 is looking different, the formation probably looks different. If we do find a way of going to 4 at the back, then maybe we win yesterday quite comfortably. And it's a 3-0 job, and everyone's kind of saying, well, that was easy, wasn't it? But we've played them when we played them. That's the way the fixture list's fallen, and yeah, I mean, we've got out of there without losing or even looking like losing. And I don't think we've really looked. The Stoke game, we didn't even look like losing at any point. That was the most annoying thing, that we'd created so many chances in that game, and just fluffed our lines in front of goal. So it's we don't have as many points as we should, based sort of relative to performances, I think. But I also remember saying exactly the same thing last season around this time. So it's one of those. I think disappointing that we're only on 5, but 7 or 8, I think would have been fair enough.
Would have been a dream. I want to move on and just chat about the Norwich game, and then obviously do all the stuff about the transfers as well. Anything else on Watford before we finish? I kind of feel like the season just like kicks on from here, doesn't it?
I just hate playing three at the back. I just want to put that in the bin as soon as possible. There's just so many reasons why I don't like it. Wide central defenders getting pulled out of position and exposed. It's easy to attack against if you're a limited team like Watford. You basically just punt the ball into the corners and chase it. Drags the centre halves out, drags the wing backs back. Defenders get in each other's way, abdicate responsibility after you, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think the game's moved on from a time when that was relatively successful. A few teams played it. I can't think of any team at the moment that plays it successfully. Certainly in the Premier League, I think. Man United are an example of a team that play it and don't play it successfully. It's the same sort of thing. Yeah. Unless you have two brilliant central midfield players and two fullbacks who can get up and down at sprint speed for the entire game, which no one can. I just do not like it. It doesn't suit us. When you see Taylor Harwood-Bellis get dragged into the left back position, that's the other thing. That the two outside centre backs have really got to be able to play at full back as well, because they end up over there covering the wing backs going forward, and it's just don't like it. I just think it makes everything so disjointed. So yeah, three at the back and get in the bin. And I'm looking at the squad that we've built. We seem to have roughly two players for every position in a 4-2-3-1, and I think that's the way it's going to go.
Yeah, I must admit, I know that Will has sort of explained that he feels he doesn't have the players to do a 4-2-3-1, but I don't quite get why. Like, I don't exactly understand what he thinks he's lacking. Because in my eyes, he's got Ryan Fraser and Jay Robinson, who are two wide men. He's got a striker. He's got two defensive midfielders. All right, to be fair, he didn't have a 10 really previously before Finn Azaz. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what he feels he's missing, but yeah, he's a manager. I'm not. So
yeah, I feel like he's missing players to play three at the back. You haven't got a left-footed centre back unless you play Charlie Taylor there, which I think is probably what you need to make the defensive side of that work. And if I think the 4 games where you had 4 different setups, either combinations of players or players in different, like Harwood-Bellis was on the left, Stevens on the right against Watford, whereas the previous game it was the other way round. You've had Kwaji's played, Edwards has played, and that's just across 4 games. So yeah, it can get in the bin quickly. Come on.
We'll put it to bed. The other game this week, of course, was the Tuesday night trip to Norwich in the League Cup. Decent result, that 3-0 the final score. And I guess, Alfie, with just one win in the league, the cup games have been important, haven't they? A bit of momentum, and it's nice to win some games.
Yeah, I think Will Steele has said they're not completely disregarding the fact they've won 2 games in the cup. Clearly, it's not important at all. Let's be totally frank, it's not important. And the reward we've got for that is a trip to Anfield, which I'm sure we're all really looking forward to.
Thrilled about, yeah.
Yeah, we're absolutely delighted to have in the middle of the absolutely ridiculous championship schedule. I'm pretty sure we go away to Anfield, and within the space of sort of 10 days either side, we go away to Hull and maybe Middlesbrough or something like that as well. Or Sheffield United. So it's just, it's a ridiculous couple of days for the players and stuff. But look, the Norwich game was important in the sense that 3 players obviously scored their first goals of the season. 3 players who've impressed us either during pre-season or in the real games. And I thought that the start of the match was horrendous. It was so bad, and off the back of obviously losing against Stoke as well. But just sort of schoolboy defending, playing between themselves, not knowing who's meant to be where, all the things that Glenn basically spoke about in terms of what's wrong with the 3 at the back. Alex McCarthy was brilliant to keep Saints in the game, but then they did what good teams do, and they just sort of stepped up and they absolutely rolled past Norwich in the end. Cruz passed obviously a goal just before half time, Cameron Archer, and then Ryan Fraser with a deserved goal in the second half, and Matsuki with an absolute wonder strike as well. And the amount of people that tweeted saying, the commentator keeps saying his name wrong. He didn't. He's right. It's pronounced Matsuki. The U is silent for some reason, just in the Japanese language. But
I'm going to keep saying it phonetically.
It's fair enough. Yeah, I mean, you decided, it's up to you. But yeah, I mean, absolute tractor beam of an effort. So yeah, it's not important to win that game in the sense that we don't need to go on a cup run, but it was really important to come back from that first sort of 15, 20, 30 minutes. They were really poor and actually go on and win the game. And Nathan Wood was very good as well. Nathan Wood, out of the three defenders, was the one who really stood out. And Steve's obviously already mentioned the fact that he looked like he'd been with Son after that game, and that's sort of 2 or 3 games in a row now where he's really been through it. So yeah, he's making a good impression.
Great goal, Steve. I know you were there for that one, weren't you?
Just some quality finishing, which you kind of don't really associate with a side that has kind of been lacking in confidence and competence in front of goal for so long. But yeah, Cam Archer's always had that in his locker. I mean, if you think back to last season, that goal is basically a mirror image of the one he scored against Liverpool in the Carabao Cup, where he cuts in and bends it in the far corner. Ryan Fraser, we know, can finish when he's not given kind of too much to think about, just instinctive finish. I think the keeper helped him out there. He kind of showed him one side, and he wasn't gonna turn down a free gift like that.
Not as much as the centre half helped him out.
Fraser continuing that run does kind of show that sort of age-old thing, the thing you were drummed into as a kid: gamble on the mistake. Because defenders do make mistakes, and if you don't gamble on the mistake, then you stood there kind of throwing your hands up in the air, saying, "Oh, wish I'd gambled on it." Yeah. And he gambled on it, and the defender made a pig's ear of it, and he's got a free shot at goal from 15 yards. So yeah, that was great, and obviously Matsuki's one from distance. I mean, the thing I love about that is the turn initially. Just that drop of the right shoulder and just turning sort of what they call like the half space now. I mean, you just turn into space. That's what it is. But I think him being a left footer always makes a goal like that look better. I think there's a reason why there's a saying, a cultured left foot. And he's absolutely smashed that into the top corner, hasn't he? I mean, it's a shame actually that the keeper got a hand to it, because it kind of doesn't quite give it the same impact of it hitting the back of the net. But it's a brilliant finish. And yeah, I mean, I wonder if he's kind of played himself into getting more first team minutes off the back of his 25 minutes at Carabao Road. He's looked very neat and tidy. Isn't afraid to mix it, because Norwich were certainly in the second half, once they got frustrated and once the game got away from them, they got a little bit sort of one of those teams that was just kind of just getting overly physical for no particular reason. But yeah, he dealt with that all absolutely fine. And I think, against similar standard opposition week in, week out, I don't think we'd have anything to particularly worry about.
And then obviously, Glenn, Liverpool away in the next round. That whole pre-draw seeding thing, I get it, but it just seems a bit of a con, because
absolutely
it's just geared towards the bigger teams. I read the explanation that they wouldn't be able to get the games in if they were drawn against each other, but
bullshit.
Who hasn't got a busy season?
Yeah, put the reserve team out. They've got alternate.
They do anyway.
It's ridiculous. It's just So at the end of the draw, I was sat there thinking, we've got the worst draw you could possibly get. We've got the champions away from home. And 7 teams were immune to getting that draw.
Yeah.
So Arsenal, Man City, don't worry, you're not going to get a tough game. I mean, Arsenal got Doncaster at home. I mean, they could have got, they could have got Liverpool away, but no, of course not. Doncaster at home.
Weirdly, Palace weren't included in this fix. So
no,
Palace were left completely open. I mean, they got lucky in that they got.
Have they appealed that?
Well, take that to case.
No, the reason for that, Steve, is because there's no Conference League games.
Yeah,
there's only 6 games in the Conference League. So
I kind of think if you're giving teams a European bye, then you give them the same.
But I don't get me wrong. I think it's utter bollocks. But they're giving them a European bye because they have to play games that week. So they have to fit one in, whereas the Palace don't, so they can play either weekend.
But what are the EFL doing? It's their cup competition. What are they doing?
Bent over by UEFA, unfortunately. Because
it's bad enough. Yeah. I mean, it's bad enough. It's about 10 years, I think, that the Premier League clubs used to come in, the European qualified clubs used to come in the second round until about 10 years ago, I think it was.
No, it's much
and then they
longer than
came.
that.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
And then they started coming in at the third round, which is bad enough. I think
you win 3 games in the final. I think
they save themselves one extra game, like that alleviates the fixture congestion before they fly off to Dubai on the end of season tour. That sort of stuff. So I just wonder what the EFL are doing. I'd almost rather these clubs just weren't in it. Maybe change the. I mean, it qualifies for the Europa League at the moment. Maybe change it so it qualifies for the Conference League.
I think it does qualify for the Conference League already.
Oh, does it? All right.
Yeah.
Just get rid of if the European clubs don't want to be in it, just get rid of them. But if they do want to be in it, play. Put a reserve team out. You've got enough players to put a squad of players. And as Steve said, they're probably going to do it anyway. We're going to go up to Liverpool, probably get beat 3-0 by Liverpool's kids.
Yeah.
Which is what happened a couple of years ago when we went up there with Russell Martin, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They had a couple of kids who I've never heard of before or since scored against us that day.
Yeah.
And that'll no doubt happen again. So yeah, it's weird because I said previously I didn't really care about the Carabao Cup this season, and then I cared about it for 24 hours because we won 3-0, and then that draw happened, and it just I didn't appreciate the full nonsense of it until I saw Mark Chapman on the TV trying to explain it. And I just thought, this is bollocks.
Here we go.
And Chapman's a great broadcaster, and yet he was just bumbling over it. It's just like, what is this crap? It's just absolutely nonsense.
And it's funny, I don't know if you saw it, the two guys doing the draw. So they Joby McAnuff was one. I can't remember who the other one was. But Joby McAnuff just had the 8 balls for the European qualified teams.
Yeah.
So he basically wasn't involved for a large amount of it.
Phil Jones, wasn't it?
Phil Jones, that's right. Yeah. So it was just crap. And on the EFL, if they've got anything about them, which they probably don't, they've got to do something about that. And
they're desperate for all the handouts they get from the Premier League. This is the problem which is why like what used to be the Johnson's Paint Trophy has now been desecrated with all of the under-21 teams. Basically, the EFL got bribed into accepting that in exchange for keeping the same amount of solidarity payments that kind of go through the league, and all of the League One and League Two clubs budget themselves on receiving, and without which they basically all go bust. So the Premier League's got the rest of the pyramid by the balls, and I'm kind of just forlornly hoping that this new independent regulator has got a little bit of a backbone. Unfortunately, I fear it will probably just be more of the same.
Yeah, of course it will.
There's no surprises anymore, is there? It's every year there's something else. Let's do Player of the Week. Ryan Fraser won last week. We've got the 2 games. We've got the Norwich game. We've got the Watford game. We'll do the poll on social media. Alfie, your standout performers for this week?
Well, we'll go for the tap-in if I can. Go for the 2-goal Cameron Archer.
Fair
easy
dues.
work.
Steve?
Slightly less of a tap-in, but still probably a noticeable contribution this week, Nathan Wood.
Okay. Could be an interesting vote this week. Glenn, any names for you?
Well, everyone thinks I've got an agenda, so I might as well fuel that by picking Alex McCarthy. Because that's the best goalkeeping performance,
of the week.
Of the season, basically. And so I'll pick Alex McCarthy for that first half.
Although one of his saves was self-inflicted.
Oh, I know it was, but the bottom line
Save's a save, isn't it?
I mean, we could have easily let him 4 goals in that first half because we were that bad defensively. But there you go. So I'll go for Alex McCarthy.
Alex McCarthy is a danger with the ball at his feet. I think that's obvious. We've seen that
dreadful.
enough times. But he is a good goalkeeper, and this isn't quite Nigel Farage in the MEP, but you all laughed at me when I said that McCarthy could potentially be number 1 this season. And I think he is a good goalkeeper. I think as a shot stopper, he's the best at the club, but clearly Gavin Zuma is a league ahead in the ball at his feet.
All that old-fashioned keeping the ball out of your net with your hands stuff.
Yeah. It's a dying art. Right, we're heading into the final hours of our August Patreon offer, which ends at 8 o'clock. So as this stream finishes, you've got about 21 minutes if you're watching live. It's your last chance to get 25% off your first month or your whole first year on any of the tiers. Our brand new $1.99 supporter level gets you into the Predictions League, the Fantasy Premier League we're doing. You get access to the WhatsApp group as well, and it gives you an ad-free podcast every week. So whichever tier you choose, you'll get more value than ever, and you'll be helping keeping the pod going and growing every week. We're hugely grateful for the support so far. But if you'd like to join us before that offer closes in now 19 minutes, just head to patreon.com/Total Saints Podcast. Now, the transfer window closes on Monday, and it's been a busy week. It's been a busy day as well. Let's try and sum it all up. Let's start with the outs. We'll do the ins. We'll do the maybes as well. Steve, this time last week, we were expecting the Tyler Dibling news. Kind of got confirmed, I think, on Monday in the end. 35 million quid plus £5 million worth of add-ons is what we expected, really.
Yeah, I think so. I think we were hoping for maybe 5 to 10 million more, but I think that would have only happened if there'd been some kind of bidding war in inverted commas, as the tabloids like to term them. I mean, can you imagine if there was actually such a thing? But yeah, I think you needed someone like Spurs to be in the conversation as well, and then Everton would have probably thought, okay, we need to kind of pull our finger out here a little bit and go a little bit closer to the mark. But ultimately, they've both for him, they've obviously got up to near enough the figure that they wanted. Ultimately, both sides probably had to compromise a little bit. Everton wouldn't have wanted to pay anywhere near that much for a guy with. I mean, we spoke about this in the past. The record that he's got with 2 goals and 2 assists, I think, last season. With that record, how is a guy worth 35 million quid up front? That would be kind of their angle, and I have a little bit of sympathy with it. But ultimately, from our position, we've obviously seen the talent the kid's got, and if someone like David Moyes, whilst also learning alongside someone like Jack Grealish, who essentially is kind of the player that Dibling is trying to be, I think it's that kind of role where he's great dribbling with the ball at his feet, keeps possession really well, can score goals, can create goals. I mean, Grealish has started this season like a house on fire, 4 assists already. He's looked brilliant.
Not in the England squad though. He's got Madueke instead.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's got no Chelsea links, so
good point.
But yeah, I think ultimately all parties are probably happy with what we've got out of that deal. I think there's certainly been question marks over Dibling's attitude. I'm not convinced that there was anything particularly untoward there. I think that's just the way his body looks. The way he plays is naturally sort of slopey shouldered, and it might look to sort of. I mean, everybody's a body language expert these days, aren't they?
It wasn't a problem when he scored that goal against Ipswich, wasn't it? At St Mary's.
Exactly. Yeah.
And also, if you want to measure a kid, like he still turned up to every single under-21s game. You know, he was going to Everton the next morning in a £40 million deal, and he sat and watched his friends play the 21s game against Sunderland at Staplewood before going up. I mean, look, it's not exactly like he's feeding millions, is it? But it's a measure of the fact that he's not an arrogant little bastard. I think it's quite clear.
Yeah, it's just interesting what you read, isn't it, after it all? The other one, Alfie, Matthew Fernandes joining West Ham. That was confirmed on Friday morning, I think. A deal about, 40 million. The thing for me that came out of that was that he wanted to go. And I don't think we kind of thought that or had seen that confirmed anywhere. But because he wants to... World Cup year. I guess you can't hold that against him. But that was news to me when I read that.
Well, the thing that was interesting about that was that Will Steele sort of said after it was all done that, he actually said that very early on. As soon as he come back from holiday, as soon as he come back from pre-season, he told the club he wanted to leave. Now, obviously the club, they were probably right to not allow that to get out because it affects your negotiating position quite significantly. But I think by the end of the window, it's getting a little bit hairy. I think it's quite clear that Matty Fernandes started to agitate a little bit and push for that move, and he's got it. But on the face value, the club would they have wanted more money? Same with Dibling, probably, yeah. I think, you're looking at sort of 50 for both of them would have been the dream target. But to get a total deal of 42, considering the circumstance, I think is okay. It's okay. So it's a £27 million profit in 1 year on a player. And, the reaction to that was obviously a lot of disappointment from fans because he was the best player by a mile last season. Obviously, won both the Player of the Year awards. But I think Will still made the point of, look, in this day and age, if the player wants to go, it's extremely difficult to keep them. And I think they know that when the January window opens back up again, the same problem comes back up, and maybe you've got less opportunity to replace him as well. Yeah. Tough one to take, but that's what relegation does, unfortunately. And as I'm sure we'll get onto in a minute, what that allowed them to do in the space of 24 hours was to make the entire squad hopefully better. And they bought a direct replacement for Matty in terms of the German lad who we'll get onto. They brought a number 10, which they wanted all summer, and they brought a natural winger, which Will Steele was adamant he wanted as well. So I think it's all worked out. As long as the players perform like we want them to, okay. But we can't judge that until we win the league in May.
The other outgoings, to a lesser extent, it was confirmed today that Ben Brereton Diaz is off to Derby. Glenn, I know that you'll be upset about that. Did you see the slightly salty statement as well that they put out? I thought that was a bit weird. He's only played twice for us, and he's joined a team that are currently 21st in the league.
Yeah, we paid $7 million for him, and he's been complete and utter gash.
Bella Kotchap and Sugawara out on loans as well, two of your other favourites. So no money coming in per se, but wages off the bill and squad numbers, bit of space.
Well, Bella Kotchap, it's just to remove the bad smell from around Staplewood, isn't it? Really, it is. It's just to get him out the door. We didn't want him to be here anymore, and there's obviously too many bridges been burnt there. Be interesting to see how his career goes. It's that old Jose Mourinho clip about let's see what happens to these players when they leave, where they play, if they play, that sort of thing. So yeah, with him going, Sugawara is a funny one because I felt like he could have been used this season. I prefer him to James Bree, for example, but with Sugawara, it's obvious that Will still didn't fancy him at all as a defender, and they were, they probably can get a bit of money back for him. They've no doubt got a loan fee. I'm surprised that he managed to find a club to play for who's relatively decent, sort of mid-table German Bundesliga side. Be interested to see how he goes out there, but no, I don't think any of those players mentioned will be missed very much. And as Alfie said, with the players that we've brought in, as long as you can never tell how good a transfer window is until a year down the line, sort of thing. But with the players,
we've tried judging windows so many times, and I've always said, we had a great window, and then they're absolutely terrible. So you have to just wait and see.
Yeah. We thought that this time last year, didn't we?
Yeah.
They have been really busy though. A bit of business as well tonight. Saint Elias Jalila, is it? Alfie, you were talking about this one. So that is the loan move for the fullback from Galatasaray, I think. Do you know?
So he's a 22-year-old Danish fullback who I know very well from my Football Manager exploits with Southampton. And if that's anything to go by, he's a good player. What he can do is he can play on both sides. So he offers Will still that versatility, that backup, that sort of competition to I guess Mads Roerslev, who we're expecting to start, who we haven't even spoken about, and obviously Ryan Manning on the left with Wellington being out injured. I've got a list of 5 players here who could potentially move by the end of the window. Obviously Ben Brereton Diaz was a 6th and that one's done. But James Bree and Charlie Taylor are both on that list. Now, that's not to say that deals for both one or one of them happen. But I think it could free up those two to go. I think that the club are sort of open to that. But yeah, Elias is in on a season-long loan. I don't know what the figure is, but I think the sort of the option to buy him has been reported at about 6-7 million quid or whatever, something like that. So it's not a massive outlay. But yeah, it's an interesting player. Some things, the Danish fullbacks and Mads Roerslev is sort of the same. For me, they feel like they're more of a 3-4-3 sort of system. Like the international team, they always play a 3-4-3 or a 3-4-2-1. And I think, but Mads Roerslev did tell us that he feels he's best in a back four. So I'd be intrigued to see what Elias sort of thinks about his game, whether he sort of feels natural as a back four left back, a back four right back, because I've always sort of thought of him as a wing back. But yeah, that bit of versatility for a good price by the sounds of it, you can't fault it, can you?
Are you surprised that James Bree might be off though, and Charlie Taylor? That was two names that I think you mentioned this week, and that's the first time I thought about James Bree potentially going, because I thought maybe that certainly Charlie Taylor, who I think was captain, wasn't he, in one of the pre-season friendlies, you thought actually these two might be all right in a back four in the Championship because they've both been there and done it before.
Yeah, it was a surprise to me as well, and again, it doesn't necessarily mean that they will go. That will happen. I think maybe Charlie Taylor slightly more likely of the two, but yeah, a bit of a surprise to me because he's sort of proven in the Championship. But ultimately, I mean, how long has he got left on his deal, sort of, Steve? Do you know off the top of your head? Is he a 1 year man now?
Charlie Taylor's in his last year.
Charlie Taylor is, yeah, and I think James Bree, considering he signed in 2023, possibly is as well. Yeah, he is. So it might be a case of cashing in while you can, sort of thing. It's not going to be huge fees, is it? But yeah, it's money back in the coffers to keep the lights on.
A couple of other players that came in on that Friday, Steve. Obviously, Finn Azaz was the one on a 4-year deal from Middlesbrough. Kasper Yander, wasn't it, from Nuremberg, and then Tom Fellows from West Brom. It was all sort of, you look at it, you think useful additions and a nice bit of business. It's not often they all get announced on the same day either.
Yeah, I mean that was a absolutely wild day for the social media guy whoever it is that's
had to make the videos
that's designing all of these video game graphics. I mean, Christ, overtime bonus very much due there. I mean, I love the one where you had Jason Puncheon poking his face out of the toilet, giving it a wave.
There was a pin badge in the one today, apparently, which is a nice little callback.
It's there.
I love a look at that in
it,
a little bit. But Rory Delap throwing Will Still over the
river,
water, I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah, I mean, all very good. But
they were delighted having to make one for George Long.
Problem is, once you start.
Yeah, you can't not do it for him, can you? You're sending a little message out there if you do that.
But yeah, I mean, I think Fellows is a fascinating one. Just the numbers, because I mean, this is a guy who was basically West Brom's key player for the last year and a half, probably. Certainly would have been their key one that they were looking to keep hold of this season, and yet we've got him for what appears to be a knockdown fee, seemingly because we've been willing to stump up all the cash in one go up front.
Yeah, not necessarily all of it, but they're paying quite heavily up front on that
most
one,
of it. Yeah. Which is fascinating that West Brom, having had a takeover 18 months ago, I think their takeover to get rid of the old Chinese fella who was bleeding dry. The guy who bought from him, I think, took over the last time we were in the Championship. So it's not like he's not been around a while, and yet they seem to be so desperate for cash.
I feel for Baggies fans as well because as we said, they've made a great start to the season. They're at the top end of the table, and they've got a lad up front called Isaac Price, who he looks the real deal. And with guys like Tom Fellows, they could have been in with a shout. But I don't know what they'll do to replace him. Maybe they'll get somebody even better in.
Interesting. They've been linked with Josh Murphy from Pompey, which would basically leave Pompey with, I think, one creative player.
Well, let's hope that happens tomorrow. Then
that'd be a real shame. If that were to go through. Leicester also looking at him apparently, which suggests that they might be worried about losing Fatawu or Mamadidi.
I mean, Fatawu cannot be in the Championship again. I mean, it's absolute madness. Yeah.
What else needs to happen, Glenn? What would you like to see the next? We've got a couple of hours left at the time of recording, haven't we? A day or so. It's might be a few more on the way out. Samadozi, you think? Smallbone, Aribo as well. That's interesting. Given that we're a little bit light in midfield at the weekend.
Well, Aribo's a fascinating character, isn't he? Because he's kind of very, very laid back about things. I think he's in the last year of his contract as well. So it wouldn't surprise me if he just hangs around for a year, to be honest.
Well, he's not been ruled out. With people I've been speaking to, he could be reintegrated back into the squad. I mean, there's actually nothing sort of doing for him at the moment in terms of interest. Unlike Adozu, it seems like has offers. So I think again they're open to cashing in, but if nothing happens, they'll reintegrate him. But I think there are worse things than reintegrating Joe Aribo personally.
Yeah, so do I.
I mean, he's our biggest earner, isn't he? I think now.
I don't know about stuff like that. I mean, of capology and things like that. I don't know how true those things are, but I mean, Ben Brown Diaz is on a big chunk.
But when you think about the sort of profile of the squad, Joe Aribo would have been useful yesterday, wouldn't he?
Yeah. Yeah.
to be able to have, sat on the bench and come on and played that central midfield role. So it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if Aribo sticks around for another year. And if we sell him, what are we going to get for him? A couple of million?
Be a loan.
It's really not going to be much. I mean, I can see him being useful in the context of the team because of because of his strength on the ball. Some of the other players, I mean, Will Smallbone just doesn't fit the profile of the sort of player that Will still wants. So it would probably be better for his career if he went. So, but
interestingly, Wrexham, go on.
They've just signed another midfielder, haven't they? So,
yeah.
I mean, they were linked with him. But
they signed Ben Sheep for the same price that was supposedly linked to Will Smallbone.
Sheep's been injured a lot the last couple of years, though. So so I mean, he's not been pivotal to what Coventry have been doing the last 18 months or so. And I mean, Coventry's midfield, they've obviously got the likes of Redoni in there as well now that have kind of just surpassed what Sheaf was able to offer them, I think.
He always felt like one that would go to the Premier League, didn't he, a couple of years ago? But
I'm sure we were linked with him, weren't we? I think at one point.
Final bit of business, Alfie. I want to mention Don Ballard as well. It looks like he might be on his way on a permanent deal. It never quite worked out, did it? It's one of those that you thought he might have got a bit of a run and he scored a few goals for the under-21s, but looks like a new challenge might be best for him.
Yeah, I think Glenn has been quite spot on with the assessment of Don Ballard for a while, in the sense that he scored a load of goals in the 21s. He's a lovely kid, good character, and his record for the academy is a joke. I mean, it's a goal a game for 5 years. But he just, at the moment, doesn't have the physical presence, I suppose. Certainly not to play for a Will Steele team, but to play for any men's team right now, he still needs to he's got something to prove, hasn't he? He got a couple of goals at Reading, and it's been slow going for him then. So, he's going to go to Leyton Orient, by the sounds of it. That should be done tomorrow. And he'll go play for manager Richie Wellens, who's obviously highly rated, got Leyton Orient to the playoff final last year. I think from Saints' point of view, it's sort of a low six-figure fee. And there'll be mainly a significant sell-on clause to, if he does go on to match the sort of heights of his academy player, they'll get something for him in the long run. But I think it's a shame for Dom, but ultimately there's 4 strikers in the squad. I should say, by the way, that unless something's drastically changed, Saints aren't signing a striker. They've been quite clear that they're not going to go for a number 9. They've got Cameron Archer, they've got Ross Stewart, they've got Damien Downs, they've also got Adam Armstrong, who they believe can play in that position as well. So unless something's changed, unless Dragons seen enough on the weekend to get the wallet out, I can't see that. Happening. But on Dom, I think it's one of those where it's a natural departure for everybody. Last year of his deal, and hopefully he goes on and smashes it, does really well, because it'll be nice to see, and Saints will benefit in the long run.
And are you doing
that injury that Ballard got when he was out for a year? He got that.
Same one that Fraser Forster had, wasn't it? The ruptured patella tendon, wasn't it?
But he got it at exactly the wrong time, at the time when if he was going to push on, that was the time. And getting another year, getting kicked down the road for another year, it was almost like too late to make an impact. And you've got to make a call, as you say, when you come into the end of the contract. You've got to make a call. Is this player going to be able to step up and play the way we want him to play? And I think he's one of these that will drop into the lower divisions, and he will probably do pretty well if they use him the right way.
So probably more outs than ins tomorrow then, Alfie. You doing the live blog tomorrow? You're going to be glued
We'll be doing a live blog, yeah. I mean, I guess the only sort of other in that's sort of boiling over is the Leo Cienza from Germany, isn't it? And I think sort of having conversations with people a couple of days ago, it was a case of, that wasn't happening right now. The club's sort of quite far apart in evaluation, which I think has been reported in Germany as well. And then the Kicker magazine came out yesterday sort of saying, it's getting closer, but I don't know if that's up to date or if that's just sort of reporting from the same weekend. But I think my personal opinion is that surely if they can get Samadozi and Ben Brereton Diaz out, so Ben Brereton Diaz is done, they get Samadozi out as well, then maybe Dragan will pull the trigger on that one and just go for it. So I think maybe that's the one that could happen. If anything else happens, then I will be as surprised as everybody else. I don't know about anything else. I said about a loan yesterday. There'd be a loan coming in. I didn't know it was going to be a fullback. I didn't know it was going to be Elias Yeller, but that seemed to come out pretty quickly after I'd said it as well. I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see what happens there. But I think they could potentially do with another winger, possibly. they've got Ryan Fraser, Jay Robinson, Adam Armstrong, and Tom Fellows. So maybe you could argue they don't. Maybe you could argue they don't need one. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Let's see.
There might be one more video to come tomorrow. Then that's what we think. Right after the international break, we're back at St Mary's for the big one. Sunday the 14th at midday. Saints versus Pompey. The first meeting between the sides since 2019 when we won at Fratton Park in the League Cup. What a game that was! A few new players in. Obviously, the international break coming up. Glenn, do you think we're going to see Will still go with his preferred formation at 4 at the back? Is this where it really kind of kicks on?
You would hope so, but it depends how many players are away, I guess, and what he's got to work with. So, I mean, I don't know if like Kasper Janda, for example, is he playing for Germany under-21s or something? I don't know. The under-21s haven't got a round of games. So, yeah. So, I mean, I would anticipate a majority of the players being around. So, maybe there is time to work on it. I mean, it's not exactly going to be rocket science to all these players, is it? They've all played in that formation before, but it's just a case of whether that's what Will still wants to do in this particular game. So yeah, I mean, it would be. It'd be interesting to see how he sees the game, because it's obviously a huge game for supporters, and the worst thing we could do is turn up and be crap and lose the game. You did that, and that because that just puts everything on such a downer. But it's one of those brilliant games, isn't it? Where if it's what football is about. If you win that game, then everyone goes home happy, and you're you can't wait for the next one. So and the fans will be right on board whatever you do after that if you can win this game. I mean, we haven't had a manager who's lost one of these games in the league for quite a while. So
there's a good stat. Who was the last one to lose?
Harry Redknapp.
Oh, would
lose a league game.
Irony,
it would have been Harry Redknapp. So that was the famous 4-1 defeat, which wasn't great. But so yeah, I mean, I can't wait for it, because it's just a game it's different to any other run-of-the-mill game that you can get, where you just turn up and watch, don't you, 3 o'clock on a Saturday or whatever. But with this game, the nerves will be kicking in, right from the moment you wake up, if not before. So it's one of those ones that you're just absolutely desperate to play well. And I mean, when we played them last time, I said, there's no way we're going to beat them 4-0. I legendarily said that, and we did. So
is this your score prediction getting in early?
No. But you can have a day like that where suddenly everything's fantastic, and even though we lost 9-0 to Leicester about a couple of months after that, that was enough to keep everybody going for a while. So yeah, it's a huge game. I really looking forward to it, and I just hope that the players and the management know how important it is to everybody. I'm sure they do. I'm sure that Franny Benali and the likes will be.
Oh God, we're going to have Mark Dennis singing before the game.
Hopefully not.
Jesus Christ.
Hopefully not.
I can't imagine the police must just say like. No.
He was there doing it before the Stoke game, wasn't he? That was him, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah. I think it was.
Yeah. Oh my God, this is embarrassing.
He was in the he was in the hospitality lounges for the Stoke game, and did an interview afterwards, and let's just say it wasn't very politically correct.
Steve, I mean, they've started the season all right, to be fair, but you kind of feel like that doesn't really count for anything come Sunday the 14th at midday. That all kind of goes out the window, really.
Yeah, pretty much. I think if we'd been in absolutely honking form and they'd had 100% record, then okay, you can kind of read a little bit more into it. But they've been as up and down as anybody. Couple of really narrow 1-0 wins, but they've been able to grind these results out. Admittedly, they've been against two of the teams that are likely to be down the bottom come the end of the season, against Oxford and Preston. But you can only beat what's in front of you, and they've got the results in those games by doing so. Who else have they played? Norwich and they drew at West Brom, didn't they? Which
Yeah.
was, I mean, that was a really good result. But if you look at the context of that game, if you look at there were a couple of refereeing decisions in that game that were absolutely extraordinary. Where, I mean, Pompey should have given away at least one penalty, and there was probably 2 red cards. And the ref just didn't have a clue. And I mean, Ryan Mason, West Brom manager, of course, in his first managerial gig, but has always come across, like when he's been interviewed, like when he was a player, and also since he's been a coach, as being like this real laid back kind of guy. And for him to have got a straight red card off the referee for his complaints in that game shows how angry he must have got and how ridiculous the refereeing was. And yeah, if you seek out that video, it's just like the penalty decision and the guy going clean through on goal and just being wiped out. Just extraordinary decisions. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the way Mousinho's had them playing ever since they got promoted. They are ugly. They are not fun to play against. They're very direct. Colby Bishop is an absolute pain in the arse. So if we thought we had issues with Kiefer Moore, then probably multiply that with this guy. And for them, it's all about who can kind of get around him and get the knockdowns. As I said about 5-10 minutes ago, Josh Murphy, there's a couple of teams apparently sniffing around him. If they lose him, then that's basically one of their 2 creative players. The other guy is this Australian lad who scored the goal at Oxford on the opening day, who looks like he might be half decent, but early days yet. But other than that, they are basically just a really sort of well-organised, solid, big, ugly unit. Yeah. So I can imagine both players and fans alike getting pretty wound up by the antics, especially if we're naive enough to give them a route into the game.
Yeah.
We should be good enough to beat them comfortably, but in a derby game, the emotion of it all kind of can throw any kind of random variable in the way. And
we've seen many times over the years, haven't we?
Yeah, we've just got to take the emotion out of the game, play the game as the opposition that you see in front of you, and you can beat that lot. It's player for player. I don't think there's really any competition, but it's all about how the team unit does. And I mean, as you look at the sort of young league table at the moment, their team unit is just about performed better than ours at the moment over the 4 games. So it's not a foregone conclusion.
I think mentally they're obviously coming into it in a much better place. Not that Saints are in a particularly bad place, but the pressure is obviously all on Southampton to win that game. And Pompey will be very happy to. They've got a great manager. They'll be very happy to come and get a draw. And I'm obviously not an expert on this derby. I'm not a native. Only 10 have ever happened in my lifetime. Most of those went before I was sort of 12 years old. So I'm no expert. But I do just feel that...
And you won't have seen a Bristol one for years either.
Well, we had one in sort of 2013-14 time, I think, with Joe Bryan scored the winner when he was about 17. But that's irrelevant. I'm obviously really excited for it, but it's going to be a real mental test for Saints, in my opinion. It's going to be a lot of players who will be nervous. Obviously, they've not experienced a game like that before. I can't wait for it. I think it's such an exciting game to have, but it does make me a little bit nervous, I must admit, despite the difference in quality.
It's going to be a hell of a game for the new signings to be thrown in as well.
Absolutely, that's the thing. We're going to have sort of probably two debuts potentially, and also Finn, who's only just arrived as well, maybe one more. So, yeah, hell of a game.
Bring it on. Well, listen, we're going to do part 2 of our Pompey preview in the podcast next weekend. We're going to get a Pompey fan on from one of their podcasts. So that is going to be a date for you, Diary. Don't miss that.
We're going to vet them heavily before, right? Surely.
Oh, yeah. No, we've already done that. Yeah. No, we've already... They're fine. They're fine.
We'll see.
Because we'll have a bit of business, I'm sure, tomorrow in the transfer window. They're going to have the same as well. So we'll get that.
I think it's also worth saying on Pompey, Martin, that the train station's shut that day. So if you it's completely shut. So if you're traveling to the game from anywhere that's not Southampton, you need to bear that in mind. It's not just going to be away fans that are going to find it difficult to get there.
There's all the road closures going on.
That's Southampton Central.
Southampton Central, yeah. Southampton Central will be shut. So if you're coming in from Wiltshire or Basingstoke or whatever, you have to bear that in mind.
It's going to be nuts. Glenn, you're off on holiday, I think. So you're getting a holiday in before the game. So I'm going to ask you for your score prediction tonight.
I haven't even thought about it really. Yeah, I mean, what I know about Pompey, as Steve said, Colby Bishop up front, good finisher and a handful, and Josh Murphy is the main man. So hopefully he won't be there, with regards to creativity. I quite like the manager, being objective. I quite like him. Seems a decent guy. I actually thought he might move on in the summer because there's stories about, Pompey, unlike their history, they don't spend a whole load of money. So the budget, I think, is
very
quite
small budget at the moment. Isn't it?
So I kind of think Massinio might get to the point somewhere when he just thinks I can't do any more than what I'm doing at the moment. But he's obviously not there yet, and he's still there. But I did think he might get headhunted, and that may happen. But of course, it won't happen before the next game. So yeah. So we've just got to carry an attacking threat, in this game. And if we carry an attacking threat, as Steve said, we should be good enough to put these away. I mean, there were some derbies in the early 2000s where we played them 6 times, 2 cup games and 2 league campaigns, and in every single game the away team didn't turn up. Whoever the away team was didn't turn up, so that can happen. You make a lot of noise and then don't turn up. And the last time we played them, it was like 2 draws. So there's like 3 bits of bragging rights up for grabs, isn't there? There's the 2 games themselves.
Those were draws that we gave away late on as well, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, we should have won both of them, and then but the final bragging rights is we got promoted and they got relegated. So we kind of won that season, but and this season the bigger picture is, do we get promoted at the end of it? But obviously that would be helped massively by winning this game, both from the point of view of the 3 points and the sort of morale lift that it will provide. So let's get out there and win it. And I'm gonna, for no reason other than madness, I'm going to predict a 2-0 win and a clean sheet.
I'll tell you one thing about Will Steele. With that, obviously he's only just got here, but he does seem like a football purist in one sense, and I think that he will be encouraging the players to go right for it. And obviously you look at Portsmouth's possession; they're sort of bottom 5 team in the league. They're bottom 5 team in the league for shots. Saints are top 2 or 3 in the league for shots and possession. So I've got no doubt what the game's going to look like. I think the game will look like Saints hammer and tongs into the box constantly. It's just whether they can manage the transitions, obviously manage the emotion as well. But I think the manager will. I think the manager appreciates what the game is, and I think he'll be right up for it.
Well, your reward for not disappearing on holiday is that you two get another week to think about your prediction. So I won't push you for that right now. And we'll do part 2, as I say, of that Pompey preview on the podcast next weekend. You can follow the Total Saints podcast on all the social media platforms. Just have a search for @TotalSaintsPod. And if you want to check out the merch store, get yourself one of the funky T-shirts or the pint glass that Glenn's been drinking his Coca-Cola from tonight. Shop.totalsaints.co.uk is the website. As I mentioned earlier, we're also on Patreon. That's where you can support the podcast with your monthly contributions. You just head to patreon.com/Total Saints Podcast. Each of the tiers comes with different perks, including some shout outs for patrons in our Francis Benali and our Mick Shannon tier. So thank you to Dave Mountain, Andy Hollis, Anthony Thompson, Gavin Ford, James Harron, Nicky Nicholson, Peter Montalablo, Southampton NY, Drew Dyer, James Kibbe, Red 76 Tax, Michael Blackmer, and David Mansell. They're all in our Francis Benali tier. And also thanks to Nick Reed, Dave Ernsberger, Nick Hingston, Phil Cook, Jonathan Cooper, Colt Baker, Anthony Thompson, Matt Hall, Mike Etheridge, Phil Horstrup, Mark Littlewood, James Bobin, John Bevan, Frank Thorpe, Jono, and Andy, who are in our Mick Shannon tier. Thanks also to Paul Castle Associates and Steamtown Brewery for sponsoring TSP this season. Thank you to Steve, Alfie, and Glenn. Thank you for watching and listening, and we'll see you again next time.